So the MGTOW community thinks that, um, you know, men should go their own way, that, these girls, they're out here trifling, and they mostly are, okay? Society is a big dumpster fire, but the men are too. And are the laws set up disproportionately against men? Yes. Are there some men who have been treated by devilish women very poorly? Yes. But uh, the and this is what I'll say is when you get in a relationship, any relationship, the woman is taking a risk and the man is taking a risk. And you might say, well, who's taking the bigger risk? Well, you're both taking a risk, okay? You're both taking many risks, and either of you could murder each other. And the fact that then that's like the most extreme risk. But I'm just, there's other ways of killing people than just physically. You can kill them emotionally, spiritually, and you know, um, mentally too. And so, I feel bad for the men out there who've genuinely been hurt. And I'm talking about the MGTOW community. There's other communities like the incel community. There's plenty of groups of men who are dealing with different issues with women and dating. So I don't want to come off seeming non-compassionate towards those men because they have legitimate grievances. And like I said, it stems from when you enter into a relationship, any relationship, even a relationship with a bank, they could steal your money. You enter into a relationship with a food market, they could sell you, bad food. Any relationship doesn't have to be a, uh, you know, dating relationship or whatever. So my point is, when you're in a relationship with a woman, you know, she could take advantage of you. And so I understand that. I understand that there are differences between men and women. And anybody who's been in a relationship knows that. And that's just nature. You look outside, you see a robin. There's a male robin and a female robin. That's just nature. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not even the best example, like cardinals. Cardinals are, there's the red male and then there's the brown female. Like, there's different, differences God made. Um, and you look at evolution, I don't see any evolution evidence of, man evolving from apes. That's a myth. They've scientifically come out with new evidence that our DNA is much drastically more different than first postulated and presented. So I don't believe in evolution. I think all the animals here were designed and put on the earth when God created them, just like it says in Genesis 1:1, which science is now aligning with and confirming because previously the science was false. But that's another subject. And so, to get back on the subject of MGTOW and dating, you know, it's like if you want to go your own way, you're free to do that. But at the same time, to get the bride, remember Jesus, what did he have to go through? He had to be crucified. He had to die. He had to give himself up to get the church. And so if Jesus was willing to do that, we need to be willing to die for our bride. And I think some men, not all men, they're not in a place of emotional death so they can get the bride. And you want to have, emotional, um, I guess you could say death, emotional stability to the point where, you're able to feel emotions, but not let your emotions ever master you. And that's like a really big deal. And, nobody's as perfect as Jesus Christ is. That's why I rely on Jesus, all glory to God in my relationship with this that I'm in. My personal relationship, I've been seeking marriage with a woman for almost 4 years. We've been planning this marriage. It's a long distance relationship. We haven't met in person, and God, He brought us together. And so, ideally, what you want to do is to escape the whole dating trap. Is let God pick your partner, and that makes things a lot easier. And then the other thing is put God in the center of your marriage. So, like Jesus, He controls the marriage. and I put my trust in God to provide everything. So for the first two steps at each part of that, God has been involved. It's not even me. And then lastly, I'd say, self-control, self-discipline is very important. And God has said that to me in a marriage, that self-control really matters. Not letting yourself get too angry, to this, to that. Catch yourself and keep yourself in balance. Any extreme is bad. You go too extreme on anything. The Bible talks about temperance and balance and, self-control a lot. And, that it's better to have self-control than to rule a city. And so, that's wisdom. And so, here's the thing that people don't understand is this world, I used to be in the New Age. I used to call it like the world of multiplicity. But it still kind of is, for some people. They live in this kind of matrix. And I don't believe in that movie, The Matrix. But, like, you've got people and, this whole world is just like a vast, like, wasteland. Like, there's no hope in this world. You live, you die. That's, you want to know what the world really is? That's the real world. You live and you die. But you know what the world with Jesus is? You have hope for everlasting life. You have hope for heaven. You have hope for true love in heaven with Jesus. If you don't have Jesus, if you're a Buddhist like I was, New Ager, like, you have no hope. You might reincarnate to go through the same suffering. You might do this. Those are all lies. The real truth is there is a heaven and a hell, and we have to choose. But like in this world, you've got this, amazing hope as a Christian, which is true. And kind of getting off topic a little bit, but that when you put God in the center of your marriage, he helps things, and we need to just trust in him at all times. And he'll help the marriage. Without him, we can't succeed. Without him, I couldn't stay in this relationship I'm in, because some things are too challenging and too difficult. And when they get too challenging and too difficult, God regulates it and he fixes it supernaturally. And, all glory to God for this marriage. And that's because I put him at the center of the marriage. And, if you put confidence in yourself and you see this world out here, there's no hope in this world. But if you put your confidence in God, yeah, God is real. God is a real person. Jesus, he's a real person. Jesus is alive. Jesus holds the whole world in the palm of his hand. Jesus is the one responsible for everything. And when we choose to take things into our own hands, first of all, there's no hope in our own plans. But like, even in our vanity and our hopelessness, like, we're able to sort of do this and that. God gives us some lateral things. He lets us choose. There's limits to what God allows us to do, how many wives you can have, how much time on earth you can live, how much this and that. God sets limits on this designed planet that we're living on. It's all Jesus. But you have to discover Jesus. You have to discover God's will, because ultimately his will is the true will. Your will, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? He gives us free will, but like, to choose. Do I want to eat an apple or a watermelon? Not to sin or not sin. And so, God's like, these are the boundaries of morality. You have to stay within them. That's not free will. To sin is slavery. And so, make sure that you discern what the will of God is. It benefits you. It doesn't benefit God that you keep his commands. He's still God either way. It's just, you want to live in a way that's pleasing to God, and that, this world is not just a dumb world you have to scheme and figure out your way through. Like, world of multiplicity. Like, this world is God's, it's Jesus's. That's the revelation. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, meaning I run this show. Meaning I'm the guy at the end of the day you're going to have to answer to for everything, that made everything, that gives you everything. Like I said, he hands you every breath you breathe. Like, I don't know if I said that or not, but, he gives us the sunlight and all the things. He made all the food, designed it. Like, this guy's in control. So, long story short, if you want to have a successful relationship, put God at the center. Stop fooling yourself, trying to do everything on your own. And the MGTOW movement will completely erode and deteriorate, because you're putting your trust in a supernatural creator instead of in yourself and in your own ideas and in biology and nature, which are foolish.